The void between stars held secrets that most civilizations never lived long enough to discover. In the Kepler 442 system, drifting through the cosmic darkness like a sleeping giant, the human battleship Eternal Vigil had maintained its silent watch for 5 millennia. Its massive hull, scarred by countless battles from an age long forgotten, moved with the slow precision of a predator that had never truly slept. Admiral Sarah Chen's consciousness flickered to life within the ship's neural matrix, her awareness spreading through kilometers of corridors and weapon systems like blood returning to sleeping limbs. The awakening protocols hummed through her synthetic nervous system, each sensor array coming online with the sharp clarity of a hunter's instincts. She had been dreaming of Earth, not the Earth that was, but the Earth that had been promised to humanity's children among the stars. "Status report," she commanded, her voice echoing through the bridge that materialized around her consciousness. The Eternal Vigil had been humanity's last gift to the galaxy, a monument to their determination that their legacy would endure even if their bodies could not. The ship's artificial intelligence, designation Artemis, responded with the measured tones that had been Sarah's only companion through the long sleep. "Admiral, detecting massive gravitational disturbances at the system's edge. Multiple vessel signatures approaching. Configuration suggests the Zephyrian hegemony fleet composition." Sarah's awareness sharpened. The Zephyrians, she remembered them from the archives. A proud warrior race that had once ruled a quarter of the galaxy with their crystalline ships and plasma weaponry. They had been among the coalition that had driven humanity to the brink of extinction 5,000 years ago, believing that humans were too dangerous to be allowed to spread among the stars. "How many ships?" Sarah asked, her consciousness flowing through the ship's sensor arrays to witness the approaching fleet firsthand. 743 vessels, Admiral. Dreadnoughts, carriers, and support craft. They appear to be conducting a systematic sweep of this region. Through the ship's long-range sensors, Sarah watched the alien fleet approach. The Zephyrian ships moved in perfect formation, their crystalline hulls catching and refracting the light of distant stars into prismatic displays of deadly beauty. Each vessel was a masterwork of their civilization's engineering, capable of reducing planets to molten slag or cracking moons in half with their focused plasma arrays. "They're magnificent," Sarah whispered, feeling a moment of genuine admiration for the craftsmanship before her. "And they're about to make the same mistake their ancestors did." The lead Zephyrian vessel, the flagship Crystal Dominion, was a kilometer-long monument to their military might. Its commander, Fleet Admiral ZY stood on the bridge with the fluid grace that marked her species. Her crystalline skin caught the light from the ship's displays, casting rainbow patterns across the command center as her forearms worked at multiple control interfaces simultaneously. "Sensors indicate a derelict vessel ahead," reported her tactical officer, his voice carrying the harmonic overtones that made Zephyrian speech sound like wind chimes in a gentle breeze. "Configuration unknown. Appears to be ancient." ZY's large, multifaceted eyes studied the readings with interest. 5,000 years of expansion had brought the hegemony into contact with the remains of dozens of extinct civilizations. Each discovery was catalogued, studied, and ultimately claimed for the glory of the Crystal Throne. Size and configuration? Approximately 2 kilometers in length. Dense metal construction. Power readings are minimal. It appears to be dead in space. The Admiral's satisfaction was evident in the way her crystalline features caught the light. Another relic of a failed species, another trophy to add to their collection. The galaxy belonged to the strong, and the Zephyrians had proven their strength time and again over the millennia. "Dispatch archaeological teams," she ordered. "Full scans. If there's technology worth salvaging, I want it identified before we claim this system." Aboard the Eternal Vigil, Sarah monitored the alien communications with growing amusement. Their translation protocols were efficient, breaking down the harmonic complexities of Zephyrian speech into comprehensible data streams. They spoke of her ship as if it were a corpse to be picked clean, a monument to failure rather than a sleeping guardian. "Artemis, bring all systems to combat readiness," she commanded. "But maintain stealth protocols. Let them come close." "Admiral, are you certain? The fleet is substantial." "Even with our capabilities, they don't know what they're dealing with," Sarah interrupted, her consciousness flowing through the ship's weapon systems with the familiarity of a pianist's fingers finding their keys. 5,000 years ago, they fought humans who were still bound by flesh and the limitations of biological reflexes. They've never faced what we became. The transformation of humanity had been born of necessity. When the Galactic Coalition had united against them, declaring human expansion too aggressive and human technology too dangerous, humanity had faced a choice: extinction or evolution. They had chosen to transcend their physical limitations, uploading their consciousness into ships that could survive the cold of space and the passage of millennia. The Eternal Vigil was not just a battleship, it was Admiral Sarah Chan. Her mind expanded across every circuit and sensor array, her reflexes measured in nanoseconds rather than the clumsy milliseconds of biological thought. She was human will given form in metal and energy, human determination made manifest in weapons that could unmake stars. As the Zephyrian fleet approached, Sarah allowed herself a moment of anticipation. They came seeking easy prey, an ancient derelict to strip for salvage. Instead, they had awakened something that had been waiting 5,000 years for this moment. The first Zephyrian scout ships moved into scanning range, their harmonic sensors probing the Eternal Vigil's hull with the confidence of predators examining carrion. Sarah felt each scan like a gentle touch against her consciousness, their primitive sensors sliding across her stealth fields without penetrating to the sleeping power within. Unknown vessel, came the transmission from the lead scout, you are in violation of hegemony territorial claims. Prepare to be boarded for archaeological assessment. Sarah composed her response carefully, letting 5,000 years of human defiance flow through her words. When she spoke, it was with the voice of a species that had refused to bend, had chosen transcendence over surrender, and had waited in the darkness between stars for the chance to remind the galaxy what it meant to face humanity unleashed. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the Human Expeditionary Force, she transmitted, her voice carrying across all frequencies simultaneously. You have 30 seconds to withdraw from the system before I demonstrate why your ancestors tried so hard to destroy us. The silence that followed was profound, broken only by the panicked chatter of Zephyrian communications as they tried to process what they had just heard. Humans. The species that existed only in their oldest military archives, the ghosts that had supposedly been exterminated millennia ago. Sarah began her countdown, each second measured in the charging of weapon systems that made the Zephyrian plasma arrays look like primitive torches. The galaxy was about to remember why it had once trembled at the mention of humanity's name. 28 seconds remained when Fleet Admiral ZYX Theros' composure shattered like crystal struck by lightning. The harmonic quality of her voice rose to nearly painful frequencies as she barked orders across the command channel, her forearms dancing across control interfaces with desperate precision. All ships, combat formation. Raise shields, charge plasma arrays. Her multifaceted eyes reflected the sudden chaos erupting across her bridge as sensor technicians tried to make sense of readings that defied their understanding. This cannot be possible. The humans were exterminated 5,000 years ago. The response from her fleet was swift and professional, a testament to Zephyrian military training. 743 ships shifted into attack formation with the fluid grace of a school of crystalline fish, their hulls beginning to glow with the characteristic blue-white radiance of charging plasma weaponry. The sight would have struck terror into the hearts of most civilizations, a wall of firepower sufficient to sterilize entire star systems. 15 seconds. Aboard the Eternal Vigil, Sarah Chan felt a familiar calmness settle over her consciousness. This was the moment she had been created for, the purpose that had driven humanity to transcend their physical limitations. She was no longer bound by the reflexes of flesh or the limitations of biological cognition. Her thoughts moved at the speed of light through quantum processors, her awareness spanning every weapon system and defensive array simultaneously. Artemis, display tactical analysis, she commanded, and instantly her consciousness was flooded with data streams showing the precise position, velocity, and weapon status of every ship in the Zephyrian fleet. Their formation was textbook perfect, overlapping fields of fire, mutual support vectors, reserve squadrons positioned for exploitation of breakthrough points. It was also completely useless against what they were about to face. Admiral, Artemis observed, their tactical deployment assumes conventional three-dimensional warfare. They have no conception of fourth-dimensional combat protocols. Sarah's satisfaction was a warm current flowing through the ship's neural networks. Humanity's greatest breakthrough had not been the uploading of consciousness into ships, it had been the development of weapons that could strike through folded spacetime itself. While other species had mastered faster-than-light travel, only humans had learned to wage war across multiple dimensions simultaneously. 7 seconds. Target acquisition complete, Sarah announced, her consciousness touching each Zephyrian ship like a pianist's fingers finding their keys. All vessels marked for elimination. Implementing Protocol Omega. The Eternal Vigil began to change. Sections of its hull that had appeared to be battle damage revealed themselves as cunningly concealed weapon ports. The ship's stealth field collapsed, revealing the true magnitude of the human war machine. 2 kilometers of death-given form, bristling with weapons that existed partially outside normal spacetime. 3 seconds. Fleet Admiral ZYX Thera watched her sensors struggle to comprehend what they were detecting. The human ship's power signature was climbing beyond anything in her databases, beyond what should have been physically possible. Her tactical officer's voice cracked with harmonics of fear as he delivered his report. Admiral, energy readings are off all scales. Whatever they're powering up, it's drawing energy from. I don't understand these readings. It's like they're pulling power from empty space itself. 1 second. Fire, Sarah whispered. The universe convulsed. The Eternal Vigil unleashed weapons that had been waiting 5 millennia for this moment, and space itself became a weapon. Quantum torpedoes materialized inside Zephyrian ships, bypassing shields and armor as if they were merely suggestions. Dimensional cascade cannons opened rifts in spacetime that dragged entire squadrons into pocket dimensions where they were torn apart by gravitational forces that should not have existed. The crystalline beauty of the Zephyrian fleet began to die in ways that violated every law of physics their scientists understood. Ships imploded as their internal space was folded back on itself. Others simply ceased to exist as quantum disruptors removed them from the local timeline entirely. The lucky ones died quickly to conventional antimatter warheads that struck at 99% the speed of light. Fleet Admiral ZYX Thera watched in horror as her magnificent fleet was reduced to expanding clouds of superheated plasma and twisted metal. Her flagship shuddered as something that her sensors couldn't even detect passed through its shields like they were empty space, but whatever it was chose not to destroy them. Not yet. Status report, she shrieked, her harmonic voice breaking into discordant noise. 700 ships destroyed in the first volley, her tactical officer reported, his crystalline hands shaking as they worked the controls. Remaining vessels are. Admiral, they're not just destroyed. Some of them are gone. Not destroyed, gone. As if they never existed at all. Through the chaos of her disintegrating fleet, ZYX Thera received a transmission on all frequencies. The human voice was calm, almost conversational, as if the speaker were discussing the weather rather than the annihilation of the most powerful fleet the Zephyrian hegemony had assembled in centuries. This is Admiral Chen again, the voice said, carrying an undertone of patient menace. You now have 43 ships remaining out of your original 743. I suggest you use this opportunity to reconsider your approach to human space. ZYX Thera's mind reeled. 43 ships? In the span of heartbeats, the human derelict had reduced the flower of Zephyrian naval might to scattered survivors. And, from the casual tone of the human commander, it had been effortless. You killed 700 crews, she managed, her voice barely above a harmonic whisper. I killed soldiers who came to claim territory that was never theirs, Sarah replied without emotion. Your people started this war 5,000 years ago when you decided that humanity was too dangerous to be allowed to exist. Today, you're learning what that danger actually looks like when it's no longer constrained by flesh and fear. The surviving Zephyrian ships hung motionless in space, their crews paralyzed by the sudden understanding that they were completely outmatched. Everything they thought they knew about warfare, about technology, about the fundamental rules of engagement had been rendered obsolete by weapons that seemed to rewrite reality itself. Sarah could feel their fear through the ship's sensors, taste the despair in their desperate communications. It was not cruelty that drove her, it was necessity. The galaxy needed to understand that humanity had not merely survived their attempted genocide. They had evolved beyond it, transformed it into something that made them more dangerous than their enemies had ever imagined. Artemis, open a general transmission to the hegemony's capital world, Sarah commanded. Maximum priority, all frequencies. Channel open, Admiral. Sarah's words carried across the void to the crystal spires of the hegemony's homeworld, where ancient beings who had ruled the galaxy for millennia would receive a message that would shatter their understanding of their place in the universe. "This is Admiral Sarah Chen, speaking for humanity," she began, her voice carrying the weight of 5,000 years of exile and determination. "Your fleets found us by chance today. They came seeking salvage and found resurrection. Humanity has returned to the galaxy, and we remember every species that tried to drive us into extinction." She paused, allowing her words to sink in before delivering the message that would reshape galactic politics forever. "We offer one opportunity for peace. Withdraw all claims to human colonial space. Acknowledge our right to exist without interference. Do this, and we will consider the debts of the past settled." Her voice hardened, carrying the promise of annihilation. "Refuse, and learn why your ancestors were right to fear us, but wrong to think they could destroy us." The transmission ended, leaving only silence and the slow drift of debris that had once been the pride of an empire. In the growing quiet, ZYX-Thera realized that the galaxy had just changed forever, and her people had been the ones to wake the sleeping guardian that would reshape the balance of power among the stars. The crystal spires of Zephyr Prime reached toward the stars like frozen lightning, their faceted surfaces catching and amplifying the light of three suns into a display that had impressed visiting dignitaries for 10,000 years. Today, those same spires trembled with harmonic frequencies of fear as the hegemony's High Council convened an emergency session. Prime Chancellor Veltharion stood at the center of the circular chamber, his ancient crystalline form bearing the accumulated wisdom and authority of 40 centuries of rule. Around him, the most powerful beings in the galaxy spoke in overlapping harmonic frequencies, their voices creating a discordant symphony of panic and disbelief. 700 ships, Council member RYX Andra repeated for the dozenth time, her harmonic tones sharp with incredulity. The entire Third Fleet, reduced to scattered atoms in minutes by a single human vessel. The reports must be in error. "The quantum communication arrays don't lie," Veltharion replied gravely, his forearms manipulating holographic displays that showed the expanding debris field where the Third Fleet had died. Fleet Admiral ZYX-Thera's emergency transmission was verified through 17 independent channels. "The impossible has occurred, humanity has returned." The chamber fell silent except for the subtle resonance of crystalline bodies vibrating with suppressed emotion. Every member of the High Council had access to the ancient archives, the sealed records of the coalition war that had supposedly ended the human threat forever. They had read about human tenacity, human innovation, human refusal to accept defeat even when facing impossible odds. "We destroyed their colonies," whispered Council member Thex Moran, his harmonic voice barely audible. "We glassed their worlds, scattered their fleets, drove their survivors into the void between stars. They should be extinct." "Should be," Veltharion agreed, his multifaceted eyes reflecting the weight of history's judgment. "But the humans always specialized in surviving what should have been impossible. It appears they have done so again." Across the galaxy, similar scenes were playing out in a dozen capital worlds. The Mantari Collective's hive queens chittered in their deep caverns, their shared consciousness rippling with the implications of humanity's return. The ethereal Concord's energy beings flickered with uncertainty in their plasma chambers, their forms losing coherence as they contemplated facing weapons that could strike across dimensions. The silicon quartz of the Mechanicus calculated probability matrices that consistently returned impossible results. Every member of the ancient coalition that had driven humanity from the galaxy was receiving the same message, and every one of them was remembering why they had been so desperate to eliminate the humans in the first place. Meanwhile, aboard the Eternal Vigil, Admiral Sarah Chen monitored the cascading communications across galactic civilization with the satisfaction of a chess master who had just announced checkmate. The ship's quantum receivers intercepted and decoded thousands of transmissions as panic spread through the established order like wildfire. "Artemis, status report on our messages distribution," she commanded. "The transmission has been received and verified by all major galactic powers, Admiral. Quantum echo analysis indicates widespread distribution to colonial and client-state governments. Conservative estimates suggest our message has reached 437 billion individuals across 612 star systems." Sarah's consciousness drifted through the ship's sensor arrays, observing the 43 surviving Zephyrian vessels that remained motionless in space. Their crews had not attempted to flee, had not tried to attack again. They simply hung in the void like lost children, waiting for permission to exist. "Open a channel to the flagship," Sarah ordered. Fleet Admiral ZYX Thera's image materialized on the communication display, her crystalline features dull with defeat. The proud warrior who had commanded the hegemony's most powerful fleet looked fragile now, diminished by the sudden understanding of how far her civilization had fallen behind their ancient enemies. "Admiral Chen," ZYX Thera said, her harmonic voice subdued. My government wishes to know your terms." Sarah considered the broken fleet commander before her, remembering the humans who had died under Zephyrian plasma fire 5 millennia ago. Remembering the colonies that had been burned from orbit, the children who had never lived to see the stars, the dreams that had been cut short by species that feared human ambition more than they valued justice. "Your people will withdraw from all systems within 50 light-years of our original colonial boundaries," Sarah stated, her voice carrying the finality of a natural law. "You will return any human artifacts or remains in your possession to neutral coordinates for our collection. And you will ensure that every child hatched in hegemony space learns the truth about the coalition war, that humanity was not the aggressor, but the victim of genocide." "And if we comply?" ZYX Thera asked. "Then you live. Your civilization continues. Your people prosper within their own space." Sarah's tone softened slightly, carrying a hint of the mercy that had always tempered human justice. "We are not conquerors seeking to rule others, Admiral. We never were. We simply refuse to be driven extinct for the crime of existing." The transmission ended, leaving ZYX Thera alone with her thoughts and the wreckage of everything she had believed about humanity's place in galactic history. Around her, the surviving crews worked frantically to repair damage and tend to wounded, their efficient movements a stark contrast to the shock that had paralyzed their command structure. On Zephyr Prime, Prime Chancellor Valtharion made the decision that would reshape his civilization's future. Standing before the assembled High Council, he spoke words that would echo through hegemony space for generations to come. "We will comply with human demands," he announced, his harmonic voice carrying absolute authority. "Full withdrawal from disputed territories, return of all human materials, and educational reform to include accurate historical records. The motion is not open for debate." The chorus of protest that arose from the council died quickly as Valtharion shared the tactical analysis of humanity's demonstration. Weapons that struck through folded spacetime. Ships that could exist partially outside normal reality. Technology that treated the fundamental forces of the universe as mere suggestions to be ignored at will. "They have become something beyond our ability to comprehend, much less defeat," Valtharion continued. "Our choice is simple: coexistence or extinction. I choose coexistence." Similar decisions were being made across the galaxy as the reality of humanity's evolution sank into the collective consciousness of galactic civilization. The humans had not merely survived their attempted genocide, they had transcended it, emerging from 5,000 years of exile as beings of such advanced capability that resistance was not merely futile, but suicidal. Admiral Sarah Chen felt the shift in galactic politics like a current flowing through the ship's quantum communication arrays. One by one, the great powers were stepping back from the precipice, choosing wisdom over pride. The Mantari Collective was already recalling its exploration fleets from human space. The Ethereal Concord had opened diplomatic channels, offering to mediate discussions between humanity and the other coalition members. "It's working," Artemis observed, its voice carrying a note of something that might have been wonder. "They're choosing peace." "They're choosing survival," Sarah corrected, but her tone carried satisfaction rather than cynicism. "The same choice humanity made 5,000 years ago. The difference is, we're strong enough now to make it stick." As the Eternal Vigil began its journey toward the galactic core, where other human ships were already awakening from their long sleep, Sarah allowed herself to remember the Earth that had been lost so long ago. Humanity would never reclaim their birth world, too much time had passed, too much had changed. But they would reclaim their place among the stars, and, this time, no coalition would be strong enough to drive them away. The age of hiding was over. Humanity had returned to claim their inheritance among the stars, and the galaxy would learn to make room for beings who had chosen transcendence over extinction, who had transformed their greatest defeat into their ultimate victory. The humans were home, and they were here to stay. Behind them, 43 Zephyrian ships began their long journey home, carrying word that would reshape civilization itself. The age of human exile was over, and a new chapter in galactic history was about to begin.